All right, today we have what I call one of our step-up lessons today. What it means is we're going to build off of a prior lesson that we have, and we're going to show you kind of the next level on what to do. It's actually one of the funniest things that I ever learned in the community, and to this day, when I see people do it, it absolutely makes me laugh. Now, in a prior lesson, we talked about the concept of IOIs, indicators of interest. They're the very subtle indicators that people give when they're interested, but they don't want to come out and tell you that they're interested. They don't want to lay their cards out on the table, but they want to see if you're picking up what they're laying down. And if you do that, they're going to immediately get the fact that, look, this guy understands, he gets it, he's sharp, and we can kind of continue to speak in this very cloaked language. And a lot of times that leads to some very positive results. Now, the question that I get a lot is, okay, I'm getting indicators of interest. What do I do? Well, obviously, the first thing you don't do is when you receive a very subtle indicator of interest, you don't jump in with this very overt, all right, well, let's ink the deal right now, because those two things don't really mesh. They're not on the same plane. And this person is talking to you on a very subtle, indirect plane. You need to meet them on that plane. What you want to do is actually not just meet them on the plane, but to use some poker parlance, we're not just going to see you, we're going to raise you. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Today we're talking about the concept of a push-pull. When you get somebody that gives you an IOI, a very subtle indicator of interest. Now, when you get that indicator of interest, you don't just want to meet them back with it and just give them a very equal, indirect indicator that you get it. Because what that does is it basically indicates to them that you're wanting them to lead the encounter. And we have a word for that. It's called a beta. Now, what a beta means is you're not a leader. You're expecting them to lead the encounter. And to be honest, in most social situations, but definitely in sales, if you're expecting the person that you're selling to lead the encounter, well, you're never going to close the sale. People want alphas. They want somebody who know what they're doing. They're the experts. You just give them the ball and run with it, and they're going to take care of it. So you might be asking, well, what do you do? I don't get it. I have no clue what to do. And that's totally normal because I was in that same spot before. What you need to do is employ what's called a push-pull. Now this one, it makes me laugh every time because I can see how it works and it happening. And it's just a lot of fun to use. Now in the community, we would see a girl give us an indicator of interest and they would be waiting for us to respond. A very subtle cue that indicates that we get what's going on and that we're interested as well. But in the community, we didn't do that. We want to really take control of the situation so that we get to direct the encounter. Great, she's interested. Okay, it doesn't mean that she's going to control the encounter. The last thing a high-value woman wants is a man who's a beta, who's a follower, who won't take the lead, and expects her to do everything. That's lazy, and no girl wants that. So what we did was we created what's called a push-pull. So we would indicate that we're interested in a very subtle way, but at the same time, we would also send a very contrary message. So we would flirt back with her, and then we always made it a point to let her know overtly that we were wanting to be friends with her. So we're really dealing with it on two planes, the subtle and the overt. So she's giving us a subtle indicator of interest. We meet that, and by flirting with her, indicate that we're interested as well. And then I would follow it with just a very throw-out passing comment of how I just really appreciate the fact that we were going to be such good friends. And then I immediately flirted with her again. So we're going from plane to plane and back again, and we're going from interest to disinterest to interest back again. And what it did is it let her know that we picked up the signal loud and clear, and we were interested to some degree, but at the same time, we were sending a message in a completely different language, the overt language, that we wanted to be friends. Before she can fully process that, we start to flirt with her again. And at that point in time, she doesn't know what's going on. So what we would do, I would do this over and over again. I wouldn't just do it once. I do it 5 or 6 times, not always back to back. It could be some time in between, but I'm going to do it over and over again because she's going to try to figure out, is this guy really interested or does he just want to be friends? Does he not see me as pretty, as attractive? but yet he's flirting with me and I can't figure it out. And so she's going to go on a hunting expedition trying to figure out which side of it I'm on. And a lot of times that meant escalating the flirting or being very much more open in what her intentions were. And there was one time where I was doing this and flirting with her, telling her how much good friends we're going to be. And she came out very overtly and said, we're going to be friends. We're not just going to be friends. And it was just like the line in The Wolf of Wall Street, where she just decides, okay, we're playing poker. Instead of having my hands close by and only I know my cards, I'm laying them out there. And because I can't handle this anymore, I need to know what's going on. And she would lay her cards face up. And there's not a lot of times where most guys ever see that happen, especially for an attractive, smart, high-value woman to do that. It really caught me off guard, in a sense. And I'm like, wow, this really, really does work. We're going to go over to sales, obviously, and it works the same way. When somebody gives you an indicator of interest and you respond back with that same subtle indicator that you get it, what do you do with that? Well, it's the same thing. You want to disqualify them. Now, we talk about that in a whole separate lesson where we're going to go deeper, but we're letting them know that they're not going to be in the position of shooting us down, that we're going to make the call on whether there's going to be future business to be made. And so we let them know this is, it's really good. It's too bad that I didn't meet you last month because I actually had an opening to add a new client, but I can't really do that today. And they're wondering, oh, okay, well, obviously this guy is not going to try to sell me anything. And then I let them know, later on, it could be whatever point in time, I'm going to give them some type of indicator that I really like the idea of them being a client, but at the same time, it's too bad because I can't add you as a client. And there could be any number of reasons why I either can't or won't do that. And at some point in time, when you do this well enough, they're going to come out and ask you, do you have any opening at all? Because I would love to work with you. And at that point, you get to decide the context on if you're going to make that exception. And if you do, you get to decide what you want to do. And what I do is I lay my ground rules out. Number one, I expect them to be low maintenance. Now, I'm not going to tell them you need to be low maintenance. But look, I'm a busy guy. I'm in demand. I have a lot of things going on. If you have an issue, I'm going to give you a route to handle with it. But at the same time, I'm not one that I'm just going to be sitting here handling gripes all day. I mean, they're not going to happen anyway, but that's just kind of where things are at. Number two, I will be available whenever they want if they need help with something. By all means, I'll do that. And lastly, and really the most important part, I don't really look for thank you notes or thank you calls or anything like that, but I take a very subtle approach to this. If you're appreciative of being a client of mine and you like the relationship that we have, really the only way that I ever see it for my clients always show it to me in the sense of referrals. So a couple months later, pretty much everybody that I work with has sent me at least 2 referrals. Now, if it's 3 or 4 months later and there's no referrals, that's fine. I figure I probably failed you and you're not happy and maybe I can help you find someone else to work with. And at that point, they understand that, listen, if they're going to continue to work with me, this is an active relationship and that they're going to be expected to find referrals. And if it means they're actively looking for conversations where they can get people to call me up or email me or meet me in person to sign up, then perfect. But those are my expectations for the people I work with. Now, you're not going to get that day one. It takes time to develop that. But you do need to write that constitution. What I mean by that is you need to write down, whether it's on your mobile device or on pen and paper, what are the things that you expect in your ideal set of clientele? And as you start to escalate your skill level in this, you can be a little bit more overt in what your expectations are with those people. And as you do it more and more, you're really going to start believing it more and more, and it's going to be a normal part of how you look at the world. And before you know it, you're going to have the same type of thing, where you're going to have a constant stream of referral business coming in, and you really don't have to do all the cold calling and telemarketing and knocking on doors, and you can skip the call blitzes that your company has, and your boss is actually going to let you do it because he doesn't want to mess up what you're doing. It's as simple as that.